Before we begin, do me one favor. If you're drawn to the darkest corners of the human mind, if stories like this keep you awake at night, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and stay with me until the very end, because once you step inside this story, there's no turning back. The sirens cut through the frozen night like knives. Blue and red lights bounced off the snow-covered highway outside the city of Orenburg, their reflections warping across the ice as patrol cars skidded to a stop. The call had come in less than 10 minutes earlier. A prison transport van off route, engines still running, but the driver was missing. When the first officers reached the scene, the doors were wide open. Inside the van, the metal cage was empty. There was no blood, no sign of a struggle. Just a single black hood on the floor, stiff with frost, the kind used to blind prisoners during transfers. The silence was all wrong. Within minutes, federal investigators sealed the entire area. The missing driver was found less than a kilometer away, kneeling in the snow, alive but trembling, his eyes wide and completely unfocused. He kept repeating the same sentence over and over, his voice cracking with fear. "They told me not to look at them." When they asked him who they were, he just began to sob. That transport had been headed to one place, a prison so secretive, so feared, that even veteran officers spoke its name carefully. Black Dolphin Prison. Officially known as Penal Colony No. 6, it sat like a concrete scar in southern Russia, surrounded by endless steppe and razor wire. There are no press tours, no interviews, no second chances. Once you go inside, you are never expected to leave alive. And now, someone who was supposed to disappear behind those walls forever hadn't arrived. 3 days earlier, thousands of kilometers away in Moscow, Major Elena Morozova stared at a photograph pinned to her office wall. The man in the image had no expression, no fear, no remorse. Just cold, empty eyes and a shaved head. His name was Viktor Sokolov, convicted of orchestrating multiple contract killings across Europe. Sokolov wasn't just a murderer. He was a brilliant strategist. Witnesses vanished around him, evidence burned, investigators would resign, transfer, or just quietly give up. When he was finally captured in Prague, he didn't even resist. He smiled. Morozova had been assigned to oversee his final transfer to Black Dolphin. It was meant to be routine. Secure convoy, maximum restraint, no communication. But routine didn't explain the hood on the floor of an empty transport van. As Morozova flew south toward Orenburg, reports started piling up. The driver claimed he was stopped by what looked like a standard traffic checkpoint: uniforms, insignia, flashing lights. He complied without question. That's when someone slipped the hood over his head. When it was finally removed, the prisoners were gone. Prisoners, plural. Sokolov hadn't been alone in that van. Black Dolphin Prison rises from the flat landscape like a fortress built to crush hope. Thick concrete walls, watchtowers armed with automatic weapons, and a symbol painted above the entrance: a black dolphin, curved and smiling, its meaning known only to those trapped beneath it. Inside, every inmate is considered permanently dangerous. They are escorted bent at the waist, hands cuffed behind their backs, eyes covered. Cells are lit 24 hours a day. Silence is enforced with punishment. Names are replaced with numbers. Warden Sergei Volkov had spent 20 years running this prison. He believed fear was the only language men like these understood. When Volkov received the call that a transfer had failed, his jaw tightened. Lock down the facility, he ordered into the phone. No one enters. No one leaves. He didn't even ask which prisoner was missing. He already suspected. Morozova arrived that night, stepping into air so cold it burned her lungs. The prison gates opened just long enough to swallow her vehicle, then slammed shut behind her. Inside the administrative wing, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Guards whispered in corners. Phones rang unanswered. Volkov greeted her with a stiff nod, his eyes sharp and assessing. "You know what this means," he said quietly. Morozova nodded. "If Sokolov is free, he won't run. He'll finish something." Volkov led her to the surveillance room. Dozens of monitors showed endless corridors, identical cells, and motionless prisoners standing at attention, but on one screen, a cell door was open. "That's impossible," Volkov muttered. His voice strained. The cell belonged to inmate 214, officially. Inmate 214 had died 6 months earlier from a heart attack during morning inspection. His body had been cremated. The paperwork was flawless. But Morozova stared at the screen, her blood turning to ice. The cell was empty, but there were signs of recent use. A folded blanket, condensation on the steel sink, faint footprints on the concrete floor. "Who was inmate 214? She asked, turning to the warden. Volkov hesitated for a long moment. "A former logistics officer," he finally said. "Convicted of aiding organized crime. He was quiet, cooperative." Morozova's eyes narrowed. "Or useful." Before Volkov could answer, an alarm blared through the entire prison. Red lights flashed across the walls. The guard shouted from the hallway. They'd found something in the restricted archives. The archive room sat deep beneath the prison, locked behind two massive steel doors and biometric scanners. Inside, files documented the worst crimes imaginable, names never spoken, crimes never published. On a cold metal table lay an open folder. Inside were transport schedules, guard rotations, internal memos, and a handwritten note. Tucked neatly between official documents, Morozova picked it up. The handwriting was clean. "Deliberate," it said. "Even cages can be unlocked from the inside." Her phone buzzed at that exact same moment. An encrypted message flashed across the screen, sent from an untraceable number. "Check the van again. You missed something." Her heart pounded in her chest. "What is it?" Volkov demanded, his voice urgent. Morozova didn't answer. She was already moving. Because whatever had happened on that frozen highway wasn't just an escape. It was the opening move of a much larger game. And when investigators returned to the transport van for the second search, they noticed something they hadn't before, carved deep into the steel floor. Hidden beneath a thin layer of frost and grime was a symbol, the same Black Dolphin from the prison entrance, but this one wasn't smiling, it was bleeding. Thanks for watching. If you want to see what happens next in this story, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. The mystery is just getting started.